bad stages. Magneto already being hovered for all business, and it looks like Rad going to be sticking the same. Magneto and Loki have been the dominant characters in a lot of the ban phase. You mentioned how Emma has been banned a fair amount as well and has been protected a fair amount, and we're immediately seeing Rad leaning into that to try and snipe it for themselves first.
Like we said, Mother's Boys on one side at least. I'd wanted to sort of up those numbers, but they're deliberating, using as much time as possible. It's the right thing to do. You don't want to rush a decision. But you know that if you do leave that space open to pick up a Loki, that the Emma Frost ban would just come out here. So interesting for all business to go for such an early ban onto Torch. So Loki is still available and open, and that's actually going to be something that they're potentially looking to pick up themselves. They're not going to go for the Emma Frost. They're going to protect the Psylocke. So, I mean, it's going to be Welsh Mania, not necessarily playing on what they want as usual, I guess. But it's making sure that 2Z does get the freedom to play it on that Psylocke.
Looking at what the tanks have played, Welsh Mania has played, like you said, Groot, Emma, and Cap. Then you look at Toot, Venom, Doctor Strange, Groot, Magneto, Hulk, Emma. They have played basically everything. So they do have flexibility, and then we are seeing a couple other teams slowly deprioritize some of these vanguards. Zero to Nasty, for example. They deprioritized vanguards in the draft phase, got very hard target ban, and then swapped over to Groot and the Hulk in order to just absolutely blow everyone up immediately with massive wombo combos. So potentially we might see all business lean in a little bit that way as they lose the Emma as well, but they're gonna get that Captain America as well, so they're still getting pickups for Welsh Mania.
Yeah, they need to really. It'd be too much damage to lose out on Magneto, Emma Frost, and Cap. But here it means that you can maybe do some more damage to the strategist backline potentially if you're Rad. I mean, what's available still? Like, Luna's still on the board. Loki, you haven't banned out just yet. You're going to go for the Luna.
Yeah.
And so it does mean that, like, all business are going to have access for Xenos to be over on that Loki for free. So it's a tricky one, actually. It's a very different draft, but it's really a case of looking at what's not on the table for one team. And all business being able to have access to Loki without having to, like, protect him. That might be something that slipped through that could cause a lot of damage to Rad if they're not careful.
I love what Rad did here, though. Of course, you mentioned that Loki's going to be very hard to deal with, but they did a last-second adjustment. Seeing what they've banned out, they've banned away that Emma, and they've banned away the Magneto. Where does the tank priority fall from there? You're looking at Groot, you're looking at Doctor Strange as the next two, and then below that, you're going to start to get into your Hulks, into your stuff like that. Captain America's, of course, getting prioritized, but the Groot is the one that can be the most game-changing. How do you deal with Groot? You pick them up with a Winter Soldier, with Bionic Hook. You can try and pull them away, and of course, percentage damage them with Wolverine, but both of those are situational. The one consistent one who is still going to work in most compositions is Punisher. Having massive rate of fire, solid damage output to clean out those walls is going to give you a lot of a counter turnaround. So Rad protecting that for Melio means that they have the versatility to try and deal with the Groot if it comes out.
2Z is on that Psylocke, as we're seeing. Not to put too much pressure on him, but if you're going to protect it, you got to have to follow through. Like we sort of mentioned, it's a big target ban for opponents. So all business feel that that's the thing that could turn the tides, give them a better finish than they had in groups. But you also see it on the other side from Naga as well. The animal name still showing for the majority of the team. But we do see a little bit of a turnaround as it's going to be a strange Emma Frost front line for Rad.
Making their way in. Doctor Strange, Emma Frost, try to set up for Melio with a culling turret. It's going to be cleaned out quickly with Slowpoke. Going to be trying to go for the counter pickup of their own Doctor Strange, but Welsh Mania onto one of their favorites. You saw them sail across your screen there. The Captain America and the Psylocke on the flank, but the Psylocke back to spawn as Melio with the adjudication takes them down and sends 2Z back to spawn.
Or just as the regen domain was used and a little bit more. I think we even saw just more healing coming out and resources from Cloak and Dagger, but it's not enough as Rad are not going to give up any space here. They're going to keep these resets going, and then this is perfect farm up in the end for Melio. 70-80% over on his ultimate already, and all business didn't even get a whiff of the point, it felt like.
So far, Rad in full control, and they are still playing extremely far forward, forcing a wraparound from all business to try and make their way in via the low ground rotation due to how much positioning Rad had. But Rad, they just play back, they kite, they're going to set themselves up on the high ground as the objective starts to reposition, forcing once again a quick cancel onto the culling turret. They're adjusting positioning so quickly, making it very hard for all business to get into the commitment here. But here comes the Eternal Bond from Znost with the clone, and Slowpo with Final Judgment melts through Melio, who had their own ultimate up as well, meaning it is completely lost.
They sort of got a Mischief copy over, but there's still some fight in here for Rad. Even seeing the Dance of the Butterflies used from Naga, so if this is an over-dedication from Rad and they're not able to take the point, this could be a nightmare. 2-2 was the main entrance way of finding that objective over from all business, with the Maelstrom uses it again to close out the fight. You sort of look, 3 ultimates dedicated from Rad in that engagement. And 2Z so far, 4-1. Not a lot of damage, but all of that focus of the damage that we're seeing, that 2K, is going to be on bringing people down to 0 HP.
Rotation coming around Melio. Trying to find an opening, find the gap, trying to focus onto that culling turret, which they will be able to take down. It takes a lot of damage. Melio actually getting caught out here, will get picked up, meaning Rad are incredibly staggered, and all business taking the opportunity. Eye of Agamotto into the backline. Dark Force teleport will not come out in time, and Fate of Both Worlds has to be dropped before Melio is even here. It's an incredibly staggered push from Rad, but they're making the most of it. Taking out Slowpo. Melio is arriving via zipline to reinforce the team, as we're seeing all business getting forced off the point, but everyone else is retreating. 2-2 getting sniped. 2Z is dropped low, and Rad are reclaiming the point.
This is where it went wrong for all business last time. Disengaging isn't too easy when you've got the chase happening here. And 2-2, I don't know if the portal was used, if he has it available, because yeah, he's going to go for the portal play now. Means that he won't have it right at the end if it goes to 99%. But up on the high ground to play from, you do have that freedom charge and the Dance of the Butterflies. And the Eye of Agamotto is going to be used preemptively. It connects onto Fall from All Business as they tried to be the ones on the aggressive. It really turned around and Rad were prepared for it. Nice and easy for them. Naga just backing out, disengaging, trying to clear some of the clones that are appearing from the low key. And trying to get these resets in. Rajaro's now the one that's getting these Maelstrom kicks. And all business now down on numbers. The portal play, a complete failure in their eyes. And Rad, 8.1.
Rad with the hold there. The portal play came out, but Eye of Agamotto, while it didn't find any eliminations thanks to the regen domain, kept the strategists from healing, and that allows everyone in that low ground to just to take what is essentially a 6v4. A fight that Rad were able to take unsurprisingly, with no healing being available on the other side, and they were able to keep control, take the point, and they are now 1-0 up in this first map, with Naga still having Dance of the Butterfly.
Really did feel like so much focus went on to just getting 2Z over towards that Psylocke. You're looking at some of the just flat out healing that Fate has been able to do. 16k on Cloak and Dagger. Feels that it's just been the common talking point, or a broken record going over it, but we're still not seeing many teams put too much focus on it flat out just in the drafts. It's such a key element, and when you have the Lunar Snow and a Cloak and Dagger, that is 2 big ultimates to rely on to keep you alive in these big engagements. Znost, he's able to copy them if he gets that God of Mischief. How else are they able? Oh my god, 2Z's taken out instantly.
The portal rollout, Dance of the Butterfly, within the first 10 seconds of the match. Slowpo is taken down, and Naga chasing onto Welsh Mania. And Rad, they burn an ultimate, but they get defensive position again, which is where they prefer to be. They have Melio, they have Culling Turret. They want to try and make sure that they have a safe place to be, because otherwise Welsh Mania is going to harangue them all the way to the point. So they'd much rather make sure that they are set up first.
Yeah. He's got Psylocke for Naga, he's got the Luna with the Idol Aura on top of him. He's able to go for these engagements and healing, but it's most important is that both those characters were not involved in the draft at all for all business. It wasn't a focus. Now Final Judgment's going to come out on both sides. Welsh Mania does find that first pick over onto Naga, and that just out-sustain the regeneration domain, keeping people topped up. It is enough for All Business to take a good, clean fight here. They don't want to use any more ults if they can help it, and Zenost actually goes for the God of Mischief. He connects, but he gets taken out by Trust Me. It's all the dedication for All Business. It seemed that they were going to get the point for free there, but 2 other ultimates used in that time texture free, actually, as Welshmania used the Freedom Charge. It looked like they were able to just get off the back of it with the final judgment, but Rad do a good job of forcing out a lot more.
Rad are able to force out a lot of the abilities. They very nearly even took down Slopo, who took the 1v1 fight, like you mentioned, thanks to that regeneration domain of Zenost, but they very nearly ran them down. Slopo used a mid-fight culling turret for the health boost, using that turret as essentially a shield of their own. It's very difficult to pull off, because sometimes you can just get wrapped around the meat, be blown up, or hit by AoE from something like a Strange, but they did take the fight. Rajaro now with Hayavakomoto at the ready, but they're very outnumbered, as Tuzi is in the backline with the Captain America, causing an absolute mischief. Welshmania will get taken down thanks to the Emma with the Carbon Crush, but already Rad's push has been slowed down to a crawl as they retreat to spawn.
I guess that's a good thing for Welshmania, is if he can just almost bait out the Carbon Crushes, even if he goes down, it means that it's not going on to Tuzi. And Tuzi has the freedom to build up already Dance to the Butterflies. Rad not fully disengaging in this fight. Now it's more just time being bought. It's going to focus out a little bit more regeneration domain just on top with that final judgment. And Welshmania is cleaning up house. A really good fight, but I was a bit worried from Rad there. It didn't feel that that was a complete clean engage, that there were still people rotating in to get back into the fight. And now All Business have Tuzi set up with a Dance of the Butterflies, and there's a God of Mischief just in case things go wrong.
The cousins of Pokey and Polly diving the backline with Captain America and Psylocke has been a composition that many teams utilize, Rubber Patapim being the ones who seem to have popularized it, if maybe not created it. But All Business using it to incredible effect here. Rushing backlines, taking out Melio again. Naga's back in spawn. Fate of both worlds, sorry, Eternal Bond is forced to be used now. Interruption onto the Eye of Agamotto, back onto the 50, but we're seeing All Business still the numbers advantage, pushing on in, and Rajaro finds nothing with their own Eye of Agamotto. This is Rad getting zoned off the point here. Melio is trying to make something happen and does have final judgment. If they can time these defensive abilities to try and take out Sloper once that regeneration goes down, but they need to make sure that someone's on the point to delay this while they do so.
It's just too much to deal with. Slowpo's putting out a chunk of damage with his final judgments. Welshmania and Tuzi like hunting dogs, just finding out those last survivors. Brings us to another full-out domination map texture. We're getting a lot of these, and really just shows the parity of EMEA is down to a map, a round of a map, if that. All Business, I think, looked a lot better there, like playing around their win conditions, maybe looked a little bit flustered on that first point. The second one built around the ultimates nicely, the right utility in the right spots. And Welshmania having a lot more freedom there. 10 final blows from them, 24-4. That's hard to do if you're a Captain America playing in a game like this. You just have to be in and out and be constantly annoying. And you could already see just how much healing Fate has been putting out. Now it's not mattering too much as All Business are able to out-sustain it.
And Tuzi's right behind them, being able to just dash on in. Also, with 10 final hits, these two are playing this backline dive style to just find anyone who's not grouped up and punish them. And this is why Loki is really good. The ability to try and protect you when you are rushed onto from behind, and it's what we've seen All Business utilize to great effect. Zenost has allowed Slopo so much freedom, and so far, no compositional adjustments as we see another portal engage, this time from All Business with a culling turret. Diamond form has to be used as everyone from Rad is going to retreat, and this time they might get away with this final judgment. Gonna be burned to try and commit to this, getting Slopo as they force their way through, forcing them back into spawn and now making their way towards the point.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It seems to be the common thing for Rad of just going for these aggressive portal plays right off the rip to find that first pick and the point to gain control early. Didn't matter all that much on the final point, and if Welshmania and Tuzi are going to jump on people like that, it might not matter much at all. Silent Seduction's being required to come out from Trust Me, but the Dance of the Butterflies in the backline is turning people on this balcony into absolute baloney. All Business take that point back very quickly.
2Z making their way around, looking for another flank. You can also see Welshmania joining them. They're going to try and find anyone out of position, anyone who's not grouped up. Ultimate Economy very in favor of All Business, as they're already catching up that lead that Rad grabbed, burning a final judgment to do so.
So the turret on the high ground from Slowpo, he's just dove out a bit to see if he can back out. See the respect that's almost given for All Business here. They do have an Ivagamoto, and now that aggression's going to come out as well. Tremaine goes in with a freedom charge. A knock around with the Eye of Agamotto means it catches on to nothing, but it doesn't matter too much as the first pick has been found. Fate has tried to sort of carve a path for Rad over onto the objective with this Eternal Bond, but it gets copied by Zenost over on that Loki. Welshmania still just punching away, holding left click, having a whale of a time, but the Eye of Agamotto catches on to both the strategists on All Business. The whole thing is going to flop down now that there's no healing and no support, and this first point, this final point, Tetcher, is back and forth.
52% to 22. Rad with the adjustment. Naga bringing out the Wolverine. They see how this Psylocke and this Captain America is causing them issues, and they see Doctor Strange holding the front line. How do you deal with both these issues? You stop them moving. Wolverine Feral Leap to hold people in place and to try and isolate Doctor Strange. If they're going to be the main front line, if there's only one front line, because Cap is trying to deal with the back line, then you might as well take advantage of it and try to pick them off. Melia retreating as well. Mania is chasing them onto the point. Slowpo trying to get an early pick up with this final judgment as Rajaro is already down. All Business are just going to flip this again.
It's such a strong strategy, and even though the adjustments I like from Rad, just having a Wolverine to dive on people, especially Rajaro, trust me, to stop the shields means that there's more space for Melio to go in with the final judgment. But it might be just a good principled idea. The execution might be a little bit harder than just discussing it. A Dance the Butterfly is available for 2Z. Looking at the backline, Crux 60% on the invisible boundary. Fate is very close to a Fate of both worlds. You have to be almost aggressive with this like last time. You need to go and try and fight and take this space. Make this more of a brawl on the objective, because All Business, they're trying to peel away from you. That's a great catch onto Welshmania. Is there going to be enough follow-up? Because Welshmania, as the Captain America, can't get out of there. It's the other Vanguard that goes down first, though. And the final judgment from Melio holding on to this point.
And that was an incredibly split fight from All Business, trying to go for the wraparound, but Naga able to just pull that Cap out of position, meaning the initial engage was just completely disjointed from All Business, and with Melio immediately saying, yep, that's the perfect opportunity, pulling the trigger. Final judgments, again, it's a big cooldown to burn, but they know that they are able to take advantage. Now, they still have that last stand, they still have silent seduction, but All Business rushing on in. Here comes that freedom charge for the extra bonus help for the rest of the team. Down to the butterfly onto the point from 2Z. Cleans out Melio once again. It's the backline getting absolutely massacred. 92% versus 82% as All Business reclaim the point, and Rad, they've got a portal now if they have it.
Is there going to be enough time for a contest? Yeah, Melio has to switch over towards the Strange, so the portal play is going to come out in a second. It's pretty tight on time. I don't think it's going to be possible. Just wait a bit long. I don't know if there was a disrupt that came in as well from 2 to just stop that actual progression happening, that contest right at the end. And All Business actually are able to take that first map against Rad. It's been complete freefall since that finals for Rad, and they've lost their 4th map in a row.
Welshmania, one of our many incredible EMEA Captain America players. Salutes in chat for the captain, as they did insane 13k damage, which is a little bit more than Naga, who is on a duelist for the majority, and also more than we saw, just a little bit less, sorry, than we saw for Melio on the Punisher for the majority of that game. We saw some great duels between the Punisher, Slowpoke being able to turn this round, but it's when they started bringing out that Captain and Psylocke, getting used to it after that first round, that we saw Team Rad losing members on the way to objectives, and that's when All Business were able to hold the point for longer periods of time because they forced more regroups.
That's pretty much it, down to a T. It was that first fight that we just saw then that really enabled Rad to snowball the first point over on Hell's Heaven. All Business, as you correctly sort of point out, Tetcher, like I felt that they really got their stuff together, that they knew exactly what they wanted to be doing in team fights, the coordination a lot stronger, and a very different approach. Even just looking at the draft again, that you've got the likes of Torch being second banned out on the side of All Business, you've got them protecting Psylocke first and then Cap, so you're not playing neither of the scary Vanguard line of Emma Frost or Magneto. But there, you could just see exactly why. Welshmania has the freedom to just be an absolute harasser over on the Captain America, and Toot to Toot having enough shields to just keep people by when you're going up against like final judgments from Melio.
Very nicely done, Toot to Toot. Like you said, they are this team, all business. They actually swap who plays the dive character depending on which one they need, and that just is such a testament to how good these Vanguards are. If it's a Venom, you want Toot to Toot, but they can also Magneto. So can Welshmania. But if it's Cap, it's all about Welshmania being able to run into that backline, and just being able to adjust like that gives them so much freedom. And you mentioned it way earlier in the fight. This Loki, there is no way to put a price on how much value that got them.
Yeah, and the mainstay of what gives a team an advantage here, Tetcher, you can't not over-focus on some of the elements. When a team is able to get Loki and the other one can, that's a big buff. When you have one team being able to get Captain America and the other can, that seems to be a big buff, especially when it's Captain Wales himself or Welshmania doing the work. And Torch is a first ban here from Rad.
Ooh. Okay, gonna see the double up on the Torch, but that gives both Loki and Magneto, but all business will have to pick one, as of course Rad are gonna have 2 bans coming out of this. But that is still risky. They're giving up one. The question is, which one do all business value more? For starters, they're going to just try and Vanguard bully. Take away the Magneto, take away potentially the Emma. Nope, they're going to stick with Luna just in case, because if that Torch is in the air, you do not want it to have that idle aura, that snowflake giving you healing every time a Vanguard is healed, keeping your frontline alive while also having your aerial assault cause problems.
Yeah, it's the idle aura. And I think Rad are going, okay, if you're going to put so much protection over onto the Psylocke, we're going to do the same on making sure that we can get Naga the Human Torch. Now it might just be a case of a very different draft. Rad coming into this in a very different style, at least recorrecting and not being punished for the fact that it's going to be the main Vanguards on one side and not the other. But the end of this draft, I do think, Tetcher, is going to be pretty interesting, because there's still a lot on the board, and like Loki, for example, still available on both sides.
And Magneto, we just talked about it, and they're both still here. All business have yet to protect either of them, and Rad have yet to ban either. Instead, Rad, realizing that Slowpoke actually put a little bit too much pressure on them here, taking away the Punisher, which immediately means Welshmania is going to get their hands on that Captain America, while taking it away for Rad. Having the ability for Cap to just rush in and cause distractions gives that Torch a little bit less pressure, because everyone's busy with the angry man from Wales/Brooklyn.
I mean, I think the Loki here is a good one. There were certainly a lot of moments where even just the regeneration domain kept people alive in fights where final judgments were used. You don't need to worry about the final judgment on the side of all business anymore, so Slowpoke doesn't have that to at least rely on. And the Emma Frost being able to be protected gives, I guess, either Trust Me or Rajaro, whichever one wants to go for it, that freedom in that direction. And an Adam final ban sort of makes this an interesting one.
This does prevent the composition that we saw in game number 1 with Mantis, Adam, and the Human Torch in the sky, and then whatever you want your last strategist to be. So we're just going to see the Mantis being hovered here, and they're using the Ultron as the 2nd/3rd strategist here, meaning that they're going to have a very high damage strategist output here. Ultron, of course, is a hit scan character, has really good damage output. You have Fate with the Loki firing squad. While the healing output is good, and of course being able to clone anything, your damage output, if you get all those clones up, can be insane in those fights. And then currently on the Rocket for a bit of pre-armor, but was hovering earlier than Mantis. Damage boost and potentially a self-inspire means that Mantis's damage output is actually pretty solid here. This could be an attempt at overwhelming just push pressure from the side of Rad.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how the comps sort of work out here. Rad, up until now, very straightforward with how they've approached drafts, but day 1 of playoffs showing that they've got a lot more to offer, and all business has certainly taken them on an interesting road, less traveled with how they want to approach things now. Here, Rad attacking first on their map choice of Halls of Dajalia. Trust Me over on that Venom means that Rajaro is going to be on the Emma Frost. He's immediately forced back by that nuisance that is Welshmania on the Captain America.
Tuzi is already sneaking around, looking for anyone on that back line. They can get a quick blow up. This could be their trigger, but we already mentioned it. Rad just going for overwhelming push power. Are already nearly at the point, forcing Tuzi to commit quite a bit further. Has to get that Iron Bulwark to make sure that they can stay sustained in this fight. Focus down, forced to back up. Soldier's Fist from Slowpoke to also retreat as they are just getting overwhelmed. Finally, Crook goes down, and that will slow down Rad for a bit.
Fate is actually the first pick that comes in. Which says a lot how well Tuzi's been annoying on this Psylocke, having that freedom to go in and perform. And really now it's a case of like having the support ultimates, maybe even potentially both of them in this fight. Oh my god, they're just taking chunks out of each other, just a hold and left click going for this engagement. But you have to worry about that supernova that's going to come in from Naga with the damage boost from Crook. And it's whether or not Zenosti's got the Cloak and Dagger ultimate, the Eternal Bond to keep people alive and fighting. And look how aggressive it is to just allow all business to keep up that pressure. You can see Rad scrambling to get back in the Rage of Ultron. He's actually going to send them forward. There with the supernova. There's the overwhelm. There's the overflow. And trust me, dashing in forces out the other strategist ultimate with a Fate of Both Worlds.
Dozen of the Butterflies in the backline going to be matched with the Soul Rejuvenation. All business trying to commit to this on the hallway, but the healing output is just so strong. Fate of Both Worlds finally expiring as Crook runs out of their ultimate as well. Psionic Seduction is enough to lock down all business, and Rad will claim point number 1. A portal will be attempted from Slowpoke, but I don't know if they probably will have enough time. This is going to be a reinforcement here to try and contest this with triple Vanguard.
Oh, they just got it. I thought that was too late. Oh, they already lose Tuzi. Might not matter too much, but with the Freedom Charge, it's another go and a bit more time being bought. That's a great Meteor in from distance to take out Crook. So no Inspire's going to be up in the damage. Might not even be really needed because the picks are still going the way of Rad in this direction. Able to take the point. Slowpoke gonna reset, go on to something else that wasn't the Doctor Strange, so no portal gonna be available for now, but at least a little bit more time ball.
Rad now making their way up. Loki clones starting to be set up on top of that card just to make sure that they have the firing squad. Get the maximum healing output, maximum damage. The extra clones do not count as additional bodies on the point, sadly, so it will just continue to move on at a single person rate here. But that extra sustain is going to be huge, as already zoning potential coming down as Trust Me is on the backline. Rage of Ultron being burnt quite early from Melio, as the team is very split here. Welsh Mania trying to harass the backline as they're trying to create zoning, and lovely use of the verticality from Melio going into that center building over the top to make sure that they can chase them down.
I mean, Trust Me on the Venom is a smart move because you're playing chicken almost. You know that there's no Emma Frost available for all business, so the Carbon Crush can't CC you. And then you're essentially sent to Tuzi, like swap over to Wolverine, which I don't think we've seen all that much of him play or Slowpoke pick at all. So there's not much like tank busting ability to put this pressure over onto Trust Me. He has a lot of freedom and he's good enough to be able to swing in and out with the drone, with the Ultron. It means that it's just consistent. Supernova going to be used now to just keep these defenders off the objective. And the Cloak and Dagger ultimate mixed in, I think, with the Fate of Both Worlds on the other side, copied from Fate. It's just not enough. All business can't keep a hold of it.
Lovely push by Rad. Like you mentioned, the Psionic Seduction, they set themselves up nicely with the push, and that is already, again, Rad so fast on these first points pushing into the backline. We're just not seeing all business get time to get this wraparound with this Captain America and this Psylocke, because they're attempting it and they're getting countered by Fate. They're attempting it and suddenly Melio is pinging them from the sky. They just can't seem to find these angles, especially as every time they do, Trust Me is in the backline, creating problems, causing issues, and instead they're having to play together in the doorway.
Oh, just a Vulcan battle at the moment. Rad's Rage of Ultron is going to be the thing that keeps things afloat. Forcing out the Freedom Charge here from Welsh Mania. It's these counter-attacks that they've attempted that have ended up costing them and splitting them just a bit more. And Soul Resurgence from Crook, it was looking like Rad were just trying to bump some of these ultimates bait a bit more time, but they're forced to use some of these bigger elements before then potentially ready. That said, Old Business are like down Welshmania. Rage of Ultron's going to have to be used from Slowpoke to just keep things going, and it's combined with that fate of both worlds. Rad are going to be happy about this because they do have a Supernova on the horizon, even a sign of seduction. Tuesday though, clearing up the house, moving over towards the Star-Lord, needed for Old Business to gain control back.
Realizing they're up against double flyers, they move over to the master aerial duelist themselves, that Star-Lord. Invulnerability frames plus the ability to fly can give you a great chance to try and take out flyers like the Human Torch, like the Ultron, who are limited to that extra speed boost from the Human Torch and the dynamic flight from the Ultron. For now, they're going to try and make their way in again. We have the Feast from the Abyss and Silent Seduction versus the Eternal Bond and the Meteor M as Old Business taking that defensive position, holding the doorway for the moment, making the best use of that Dagger Storm. That extra bubble healing from the Cloak and Dagger is already coming in with that Eternal Bond dropping low, keeping the team topped up. There's the dive, frenzied arrival from Trust Me, but Tuzi is uncontested right now. Silent Seduction coming on up, trying to take it as Trust Me gets the double on the back line.
Trust doing it. I don't think it without any damage crease. I think it was just the Rage of Ultron on top. So now 90 seconds on the clock. All Business need to go and contest this one. Welshmania is back, so he should be fast enough to go and fight this. Meteor M for 2-2. If you can find the perfect spot, you might be able to take out Croak before he uses the Soul Resurgence. Is that going to be the main target? Hard to know. Carmen Crush over in Welshmania, but he's got enough to keep him going, at least for the time being. Even with all the CCs, he gets sedated. There's the Meteor M going up onto the high ground, looking to see if he can get stuff around the regeneration domain. He can't. They keeps people going, and Naga is just cleaning up house over on this Human Torch. It's good enough. 1 minute and 3 seconds on the clock for Rad. In All Business, it was looking like a disaster to begin with. I think they did a good job to slow things down towards the end.
Very nicely done. Like you said, they slowed it down, they burnt for a lot of the time, but Rad had so much speed in those earlier parts of the map. It was potentially a little bit late for All Business for their adjustments. Bringing out that Star-Lord for the interior fight was a stroke of genius, but it was just a little bit too late. But again, they've moved off of the Psylocke now, realizing that Fate is just kind of countering them at this point. These regeneration domains have been on point so far.
It's the risk of just leaving it out. I mean, you saw how much success All Business had with it when they had the Loki available to them last time. Now they're on the receiving end of it. And you've got Trust that hasn't died yet. Like, no eliminations have gone on to him. He's been able to survive just going in and out as the Venom. And it's one of the few times, I guess, that you'll see the Ultron out healing somebody. He's just got 1k more than the Mantis to Crook. A little bit behind because Melio's been able to just keep the Venom alive.
Interesting. Utilizing rollout speed. Trust Me has decided that they're not going to go for another Vanguard. They're starting on Spider-Man. Potentially believing they could see an All Business portal out for the rollout, or just to try and take someone off the map. Sailing past, they find nothing and are heading back to spawn.
Yeah, nice try, I guess. But yeah, trust me, I guess he's just going to move over to the Venom and it's not going to be too long before he's back. But All Business seeing this as a chance in a 6 versus 5 to see if they can catch other people out. All of the Loki clones up on the high ground, regeneration domain forced out, but Melio catching on to 2Z. He's going to be brought back pretty early because now you do see that Guardians triple strategist comp coming out a little bit more. It might not matter though if Naga's just able to sit on top of where these cocoons are coming from. Doesn't matter how much soul perseverance you have, you can't persevere through this.
Pushing through, they force them right back to spawn. Like you mentioned, Trust Me, trying for an ambitious rollout. They did just swap immediately back to the Venom to make sure they could rejoin their team on the Vanguard. I'm wondering if that, like, dropping off the edge was intentional just so they could get back to the fight quicker instead of having to roll in on a third duelist here.
Yeah.
Interesting to think about, but for now, Slowpoke has moved over to a Wolverine to, we already mentioned it, try and deal with that Venom.
Are you going to have any combos to fastball though? Because it feels like that's the thing that really is hard for teams to deal with at the moment. But now you've got both of these like duelists forced onto picks that they probably don't want to be on. Tuzi on the Star-Lord is having a little bit more of a struggle so far here, but combos nicely with Slowpo. He's able to get the catch. Rage of Ultron's going to be used. Trust me, slowed down and frozen still isn't going to be able to fight in this engagement. As a God of Mischief forced to bring out the fate of both worlds. The barrage is good enough. It's great to farm up this Galactic Legend. But Tuzi sat here thinking, I can hold on to this because we managed to get this point seemingly for free.
Elio swapped over to the Strange. They're going to try and portal delay it, which does mean they're going to be a little staggered because, trust me, it's only just respawning. Here comes the portal. They do touch the point side seduction coming out. The Galactic Legend on the flank to try and burst on through media endpoint right onto the Mantis, who's able to sidestep it to avoid the main impact and stay up in this fight. Blaster Rush coming out once again, and Rad are starting to fall one by one. This is all business. Once again, living up to their name as they claim point number 1 and are beginning the journey to the temple.
For Rad fans, you're fine with that because so many ultimates were running for All Business. For All Business fans, I really respect that they threw everything that they had there. They know there's instances where Portal recontest can end badly and they're not able to get a point which seemed to be completely theirs. So you had the Galactic Legend used, the Last Stand for Slowpo on the Wolverine, Meteor M, Fate of Both Worlds, where you're over halfway to having it for closer. You can see All Business trying to set up, go for this engagement yet again. And trust me, doing well to sort of stall. He's pulled all the team back. It's a pick on the other side as Slowpo goes down against Melio's Psylocke now. And it's really a case of the space being taken up. Tuzi almost getting a pick there if it wasn't for the Carbon Crush from Rajaro.
Melio dashing away, very nearly getting caught out by Tuzi on the high ground, coming in from behind, looking for the Emma. Rajaro dropping low. Quick escape by Tuzi, but they're melted by the main attacks from Emma Frost as Naga in the sky trying to create an opening as Mantis will, even though they're down a member, they're going to try and commit to this push in the 5v5 as we see the quick retreat. Slowpo looking for anyone to step out of position so they can get the quick isolation, but while this is happening, Rad are fighting in the doorway. The cart keeps moving.
Great catch over on Naga, but he's actually not gone down a lick of health. He's been 100% the whole time for the regeneration domain, and then the fate of both worlds that are following on both sides. This is an absolute mess, and trust me, with a Feast of the Abyss gets maybe more than he wanted to chew on, Melio's able to just sort of clean out a little bit more. Galactic Legend up in the sky, forced back a little bit more. The Silent Seduction forced him into a position where, trust me, he's actually able to grab on top of him. Now the Last Stand coming in from Slowpo, able to connect onto 2, leave him back onto this point that's now in the hands of the defenders. Rad have done a real good job at steering the ship back into their favor.
Not giving up though, All Business still committing to this, but Supernova will shut this down. Portal, and Supernova through the portal door. That is going to hold them in spawn and buy extra couple seconds that Rad were in need of. 2 minutes to go for All Business. Welsh Mania on that Captain America is going to try and rush in again. And Slowpo, they are all regrouped right now with only the Freedom Charge, but that is essentially a strategist ultimate in its own right, meaning All Business do have the opportunity to try and push on in.
It's hard when you're up against the Loki on this part of the map where you can just sit on top of the high ground on the rooftops like you're seeing. At least Tuzi's able to sort of be the anti-air machinery to take down Naga to bring him back on to even footings. You can see just how much focus tries to go into taking out the Loki to the point where it's just given up in the end. Welsh Radio goes down, fighting up onto Rajaro, and you can see the Wolverine trying to go and clear things up nicely. Just over a minute onto the clock, Feast of the Abyss trying to connect. Not really going to bring out any of the support ultimates, or really many of the bigger cooldowns used, but you can see how Rad are just holding on. They're stalling out a good portion, and the invisible boundary means that Rad are able to recontest this.
They just refuse to give up, just rolling in one at a time. Fate is now going to be taken down, though. Melio does it, the butterflies in the background. They've still got Venom back on the point with the fast rollout. Galactic Legend to try and melt them, but they are being focused down here. So much damage output. And Rad, they are holding this, utilizing the clone onto Captain America from Crook to give them that Freedom Charge, that bonus health in the fight. And now with 30 seconds remaining, All Business, it might be time for something risky risky, and they've decided that they're going to bring out the Hulk maximum sustain, and to try and get someone onto the point to trigger overtime. It's the job of Wolverine, the Slowpoke missile, but they do not reach, and now they're distracted by this Venom with 15 seconds left. They are running low on time.
Yeah, trust me, he's so good at forcing all business to turn around and look behind them. And now I don't think there's going to be much chance of contesting onto the point, so this scrap is all for naught. Actually, no, there is a body. I'm not quite sure who it's going to be, but they're alone. A couple of players now managing to group over as well. Shemani on the Magneto just having to hold W and go there the old-fashioned way, but it's bought some time for the Wolverine. Bruce Banner for 2-2 goes down, and Rad now holding this nicely. The fate of both worlds used to just get the speed boost in order to get there, and the barrage in the middle of it is not going to be enough damage at all to take anybody down from Rad. Supernova from Naga is going to make this point unbearable for all business to be touching, and they're not able to touch it any longer. Rad are going to bring us to a map 3.
All business, they just put everything towards that. Hulk diving onto the point, got dropped into Banner. Wolverine diving onto the point, gets taken out. The Lunar Snow skating onto the point, gets focused down. Tried to use Fate of Both Worlds to delay. Was able to hold out for a while. Jeff with the speed boosting bubbles, just because it's one of the faster rollout characters, trying to put out the Supernova and keep their teams topped up. But like you said, it's a much closer spawn for the side of Rad, and the second that Dance of the Butterflies came out, it was just inhospitable, and we will see the evening up of the series by Rad.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the damage output, and it's the fact Torch one side, 36k. You've got Rajaro that's able to do almost 30k as Emma Frost. And that's the character that all business would comfortably play on, that haven't really bothered with all that much, to try to give Tusi a little bit more comfort over onto the Psylocke. I think here, is that strategy worth dedicating to a third map? Because, I mean, Tusi looked really good on the Star-Lord. You have that as an option if you need.
They even ran the Adam with it for a bit, but then swapped off it later on just because they realized that he didn't really need it. He was playing quite safe, and they had the Snowflake and the Ultron drone. Tusi was pretty well protected.
Well, that's the thing, I guess, is just like with the Ultron before, how much of a focus, I'm just double checking, how much of a focus have we really seen from all business so far with it? I don't think that the answer is all too much. I don't think it's the only time that we've seen Slowpoke move over towards the Ultron, but
definitely seen it.
Yeah, it's not something that's like at the top of their wheelhouse. Then maybe they felt that it just wasn't working there, they're just having a Wolverine across, but it felt awkward when you're adjusting over from the Guardians comp to be playing a Wolverine, and then you've still got Sinos that's on Mantis for a good portion of time, and then at the last breath, that's where you go for a fastball play. It just feels a little bit like, okay, if you're moving one piece, 3 other characters need to adjust at the same time too. That's why so many of these comps are like very much stuck onto, and they're not swapped over win or loss, because of the team-ups and the reliability and just the synergies that you've frankly been practicing the whole time too. I'm just playing a lot of Emma Frost, not going to be playing them at all so far in this first series of playoffs. Magneto, I mean, you're free reign here. Which one do you want, Emma Frost or the Magneto? I mean, we saw so much success coming in from the Emma Frost last time, I think, from Rajaro, that them saving and protecting Magneto is a little bit interesting. And thankfully, the Loki's been taken out from all business. They know just that, honestly, Rad are required to ban it out themselves.
Surely, at this point. The Loki's been so impactful, literally has won every game it has shown up in, and it's always been one side. But Rad, they're letting it sneak through here, as we will see them take away the Wolverine instead. This could mean the Rad are looking to lean closer towards potentially a Magneto Strange or a Magneto grouped, where they could just try and lead it a little bit heavier, and they're going to protect the Punisher as well. They have a one-sided Magneto. Sorry, I just got my toes stabbed by something sharp on my carpet.
Wait, what? just a blade cutting through.
I don't know what it was. I think it's like a thorn from outside that came in on a shoe or something. But I can deal with that later. I have a tissue, so it's fine.
Yeah, just make sure you're not like bleeding out. Like, I don't think any of these teams are bringing it back, bleeding out in this draft necessarily.
Hey.
The Punisher save, I think, is an important one to just give a little bit more comfort. But I am curious on like the Wolverine ban, because you're not going to have Torch, so you don't need to be worried about taking out the Sky, unless Naga's looking to go stuff like Storm, maybe a bit more Ultron. You don't need to worry about the fastball because All Business just haven't really played much Hulk/the Thing to really warrant it, it feels like. Protection of the Cap is going to be the final thing All Business are going to bring together in this one. And that's pretty much... It's looking a little bit better, but you ban out the Loki here. For God's sake, Rad. Yeah, okay, thank the Lord.
All right, we very almost ended up with Welsh Mania getting their Cap and also All Business getting the Loki, which is how they did so well in game number 1, amongst other things. But in this case, the Loki will be mirror banned, and we did predict correctly, though, with that Punisher will be protected. Does All Business getting their Punisher means they will have at least some counter for this Groot, but the Wolverine has been yoinked, making it much more difficult. Welsh Mania is currently hovering the Squirrel Girl. That might just be for a portal rollout. I expect they will probably not be rolling this the whole game.
You'd hope not, all things considered. An interesting look into these two teams that honestly showing All Business a little bit maybe forgotten about, because they were a team that finished top 3 in the Marvel Rivals Championship in Season 1. There wasn't really much other tournaments happening at the moment. Like, all of the Tier 1 teams were still in that championship. Now it's a bit different because the championship leads into Ignite. So, like, for Season 2, it's going to be a lot... You're not going to see the likes of Virtus Pro in that one, for example. So All Business, a top 3 finish in that tournament, definitely is a testament. It's a good showing. In fact, they've really got Rad the potential Goon, I'd say, if they're not careful, actually, if they go for this engagement, Wolverine's like hovering up in the high ground, trying to see if he could dive on somebody, take them out of position. 2-2 needs to go careful.
Naga looking to spring the trap. You mentioned 2-2 is going to be the big target here. As Welsh Mania is likely going to be moving a little bit too fast, but it's already losing Slowpo and Tuzi. This is going to force the retreat out of All Business back into the spawn. And Rad, they strike, immediately taking the opportunity to chase them all the way back.
Oh, they get him.
And they grab 2-2 on the way out.
It was a horror film for 2-2 trying to get through, but the walls that were coming in from Groot, the knock up as well up into the high ground. And they wasn't able to completely reset, so buys a little bit more time for Rad that are not afraid to go for this super aggressive, Peps-inspired spawn doors hold. Welsh Mania trying to pull a bit of the attention away, but Tuzi's not even being allowed the freedom to fly.
Trying to push their way out here. All Business once again gonna be staggered. Melio sieging in from above. You can see they're trying to take out this central building to remove that cover for the flyer to prevent Melio from having all this freedom. But right now their big issue seems to just be dealing with Trust Me, who on this group is just uncontested, zoning away people, splitting between 2 and setting up for this Wolverine to isolate people away from the strategist. But finally, Tuzi has some room. They've escaped spawn and are starting to rain down fire, but already losing Slowpo. Rad are just not going down.
Neither are All Business up until then. Strangling Prison, forcing out the invisible boundary for Zenost. Welsh Mania just can't keep up with it at all. You've got Naga on one side that's going to stop just any, like, brawly, disruptive Vanguard's been used on the other side. And Welsh Mania switching over to the Squirrel Girl to just buy himself some space. He's almost got that Tsunami ready to go with, and the fate of both worlds is going to force a little bit of a pushback from Rad. If it wasn't for the ultimates dedicated, the Rage of Ultron interrupted actually from the Eye of Agamotto, but still the elimination's not going their way. Watching 2-2, the frustration of just being reset back to your spawn, at least attempted, but he can't quite get there. This is just cyberbullying. This shouldn't be allowed on the internet. This is crazy.
Welsh Mania has said enough is enough, and it's time to break the siege. The Squirrel Girl has come out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see potentially a Storm swap to here. They're being contained. They must just maximize damage. Supernova's going to be burned. A bit of a Squirrel Tsunami comes out, but Trust Me, Straggling Prison finishes off Welsh Mania, and All Business are once again getting staggered. Rad just refused to go down. Tuzi is flanking now, has to use the Flaming Media to get out of danger as they almost get caught out of position. But right now, this is Rad. This is a completely different game to what we saw in the first 2 rounds. The Groot is causing too many issues. This Wolverine is uncontested, and All Business can't find an opening.
All Business maybe regretting the choice of coming here to Spider Islands with how this is going thus far. The 2-2 actually finding an opening. After all of that cyberbullying, he's been able to bounce back with a couple of picks on his own. But you still have to look at the clock. Less than a minute, and the payload has moved 20 meters.
The fact is, we could probably just see a portal re-engage here to try and defend a second time, and immediately that is what we do see. Trust Me moves over to the Doctor Strange. Portal's going to come out. This is a composition that was kind of perfected by Peps by defending and just hard holding on the first setup, and then Portal in for yet another fight with 20 seconds remaining. It's just going to take one fight from Rad to hold this. Rage of Ultron coming out, Eternal Bond, Media M to try and deal with it. Slowpoke gets sniped again. Welsh Mania is holding. They are wiping them off the board right now with the Maelstrom. Rajaro is holding it together as we're traded 2 for 2 for the moment. Tuzi with Supernova is buying every extra second, but they're getting meleeed by Trust Me with that Cloak of Levitation getting forced off the point. The cart is creeping forward. It's currently just the Vanguards buying every extra second as Welsh Mania with that Freedom Charge sustains the team through, and in overtime, all business will sustain immediately. They're rushing ahead. They know they have to zone. They can't allow Rad to get set up for another defense.
Have to farm up these ultimates too, because Tuzi's not going to have a Supernova. Welshmania's not going to have that Freedom Charge, so they're just trying to do their best with a little bit of support from the drone of Ultron to see if they can create a bit more time as well, but hitting this checkpoint, and Rad are trying to find a good engagement to go off of it. There's the Eternal Bond that's going to enable stuff to go through, but the Fate of Both Worlds is going to be used in kind. Meteor M trying to come through, and another Eye of Agamotto is the main thing that's going to stall out all business for the time being. The closer having to respect this, give up a lot of space. In fact, everybody's got off of the objective. Now this is really just a case of touching. 2-2 is the one that goes down. And Rad eventually stopped things pretty much right by the end of this first checkpoint. All business, considering how bad it looked a minute in, I think they're going to be pretty happy that they got it that far in the end.
Legitimately, considering how they were down to 40 seconds before the second portal fight came in, they were able to turn that round. But this is now the opportunity for Rad to just pull the trigger and play aggressive. They have to make angles. At this point, all business, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them try something a little bit riskier, potentially something like a penny composition, even though it did get nerfed. At this point, you got to throw stuff at the wall. If at one point you get broken siege-wise, you're in serious trouble. For now, Rajaro is going to be the penny, but that is just for a pre-siege up. And Melio, while we saw all business start with the Squirrel Girl, they are looking to start with the Black Widow. If they can burst someone down in the initial fight, they get value. But they're thinking about maybe not doing it because otherwise they don't get that extra shielding on the Punisher.
Still seems that team up between Penny Parker and Rocket is still good enough to be using.
50 armor's pretty good.
Yeah, not too much of a change there. But all business, they sort of know the stakes. It's going to be required of them here. Rad, ever since they had that series win up against Virtus Pro, it hasn't quite been the same level of glory that they might have been expecting afterwards. In fact, everybody's gunning for them, including all business here. You've got the triple strategist comp running in. Slowpoke again, dedicating over to the Ultron. It didn't work that well on Halls of Djali. He was forced to switch. He has to do a little bit better here. Welshmania, Captain Wales needs to shine again.
Trying to just harass the backline to give their team some space to make sure they can stay set up. Tuzi, the pressure on them as well to just land these shots from above, setting up Pyro Prisons whenever possible. The Toot's going to get zoned away, and already Rad have broken the initial containment and are creeping forward as all business are just trying to whittle them down and weaken them from time to time. Welshmania's in the backline, sets up the shield. Needs to be careful as Melio, in theory, get deflected onto themselves, but it did not matter. They are able to use adjudication and clean up Welshmania. The Toot falls to Naga, and this is Rad pushing on in so aggressively already. Zipline trying to get up onto the high ground and to push on in. An aggressive rollout from Melio as the card is heading right towards this finish line. The Toot is on straight, so can portal the team in.
It's an early portal, 3 minutes on the clock, so you're not going to have it for the rest of the game until there's maybe a potential long overtime. There's the Eternal Bond, allowing a battle stance for Rad in the Strangling Prison. Has to follow up, actually. Tuzi goes down, pulled to the ground. Welshmania connected onto by Naga. It's looking really uncomfortable for all business as they're losing bodies to actually contest. It's Slowpo left alive, and yeah, all business fans feeling a little bit like that as Rad reverse sweep their way back into taking this first game of playoffs.
Nicely done. Again, that was just completely different. A completely different game to rounds number 1 and 2. Rad just took full control on the holds, reinforced when needed, and then tried to create openings, and then zoned to make sure that reinforcers didn't come back in for when they were on the defense. This was just a really solid setup. Rad, nicely done. Melio with a classic 11k damage, actually getting out damaged this time by the Vanguards because they were the ones creating this containment. 13k damage for Trust Me. Rajaro with 12k. Doozy, of course, is going to top the output because Torch versus Groot and Magneto is going to give you a very high damage output, but just not finding enough final hits.
Problem for all business is trying to take us to a map that's been in the game for this long, that Rad have been a team that have, as a core, played together for a long time. And it just took, 3 minutes before we sort of started to see the string of eliminations go the way of all business. And honestly, even with 2Z having the freedom with the protects on the characters that are super strong at the moment, it wasn't enough because Team Rad had the preparation for it, they had the coordination, and just some really good individual moments. Like this pick that Melio was able to get, this flick, very clean.
You worry about Cap on the backline. Cap can be so good for this pressure, but the Punisher has more than one weapon. That shotgun being so good against backline divers. It's insane against the Venom. You can burst through the Cap shield. Of course, they can deflect some of the shots back, but with that group preventing anyone from getting out of spawn. For starters, congratulations, but we have to start off with something maybe a little bit uncomfortable. What went wrong in game 1?
Well, for starters, in game 1, something actually happened. I was not even here, so I couldn't join for the ban phase. I couldn't even influence the bans. We did a Luna ban, and it kind of like allowed them to play the Cloak Punisher, and it made it very, very hard time for us because the Punisher is very strong with Cloak combination.
I also want to talk a little bit about last week as well, because obviously you guys beat Virtus Pro, but in that rematch in the grand finals, it was a struggle, right? It was a 0-3. Overall in that series, what was the issue, and is that something that you've managed to fix going into playoffs?
Virtus Pro is always a good contender. We tried all different stuff. I think that the bans also were not good from us, especially against them. We kind of allowed them to play the good characters. We think that currently Psylocke and Torch are insanely strong, and I think that's also the comfort picks of Virtus Pro, which the last time we played them, we haven't really faced them on these characters, and I think that made a very big difference there. So we kind of allowed them to play their strength and even allowed us to play into that weakness of us, right? Because we allowed them to dive, and we had a Loki that only has 250 HP and just gets one-shotted every single time the captain goes in. It's kind of hard.
So you guys had the Loki against you in game number 1, and then you picked it in game number 2 and did quite well with it, and then in game number 3 it was banned out. We have been seeing Loki fluctuate in terms of ban priorities throughout a lot of the games. Where do you feel like he fits at the moment?
I mean, I think that Loki might be the strongest hero in the game. It is definitely the best support in the game. It's very versatile. The theory behind my idea on how to beat Loki is very hard to go around, because in my idea, Loki strives best in a brawl environment where you have a lot of characters, like Groot, an example, that benefit from the lamp usage. And the issue with that is basically he's still very good without that. Like, he has insane survivability. There's double Luna ult on point. Luna ult is by far the strongest ult in my opinion, because it's just so versatile. You can stall the point forever. You get the damage boost benefit, so you get more opportunities to kill through other support ults, and that is very, very strong and very lethal to play against. So the Loki is definitely a very good anchor in any composition.
I think one thing that I've learned about you as a Vanguard player, Trust Me, is how flexible you are and how experimental, I suppose, your approach is, right? Like, we saw a little bit of Venom today, where you're known as like a strong Penny Parker player in a lot of different instances, but also a little bit of Spider-Man today as well, with out of Holzajalia. We were trying to guess if the fact of you trying to almost go for the Jeff strategy of zip somebody up, pull them off the map, you go with them so you can reset to Venom. Was that the general gist? You just missed a pull, but you were meant to go down.
That is basically what was the strategy. So I can reveal a little bit. Yesterday we scrimmed like 6 hours and 3 times that exact map, right? This is the only map where you make it back in time. But I not only did I mess it up on Spider-Man, I also messed up the Venom rollout. So I came back a little bit later than I did originally. But it's still enough time to get back. So that's the strategy, right? It's like the fact that you can do it without no drawback, basically. So it's just a free chance regardless of if you get it or not. It's like TPing off the map, but it's better than TP because you still have that TP to come back if you lose the fight. So it's like the same idea of TPing the spawn door to get an entry pick, but you keep the TP for it so you can come back to the point after. And there's no drawback since you're back fast.
Really a drawback to you telling us this, because now everyone is going to be worried coming out of Spawn, which can slow rollouts. This is really clever. I love the idea. Like you mentioned, John the Strange or the Venom for the return. Absolutely genius. But is this something you might consider bringing into your next opponents, as you will move on in the upper bracket? You're going to be going up against Zero Tenacity.
Potentially, right? If we play the same map again, they might have to look out for a Spider-Man that is practiced 2 hours in custom game yesterday to pull off the combo just to not hit it, right?
I guess then that's sort of a good point. If you're putting so much time into like little rollout plays like that, so much focus on the draft is on 2 Vanguards, right? Magneto, Emma Frost. You were almost trying to push the boundaries of what characters are like considered meta. Do you feel like it's almost like a bit of a mistake of teams over focusing on, because I think you went a game without getting either Emma Frost or Magneto and you guys were perfectly fine? Like, do you think that teams are over prioritizing those 2 characters in particular, or is it just I'm so good at all of the other Vanguards, it's not a problem for me and my teammate?
I think this is something that I feel too, because in my experience with scrims and from different teams, it truly feels like a lot of people overrate the Emma and the Magneto. I think, but like in our case in the team, we don't really trust that call. We want to play either Emma or Mag, but I think that we should spend more time in practice, or like we should have had spent more time better, right? Because the tournament is ongoing, to like play stuff without those characters, right? This would have been better for me personally to practice that, because I don't think Emma and Mag is always necessary.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. Trust me, we'll let you go back to celebrate with your team. Your next matchup is going to be against Zero Tenacity, so it's time to start getting more hours in the custom games. See if you can start pulling people off the side again.
Hopefully once, right? In scrims I also didn't hit it, but as I said, there's no drawback. So
oh my god! You said he did it 3 times. I assume that you got them 3 times, not that it was.
No, I failed it 3 times. And it was funny 3 times, but at the same time, they're like, oh yeah, we got a free entry pick. We're just gonna run in, and then they get hit by a very good Venom Slam, right? And it's like they baited to rush to the point, and then they get hit. And that's exactly what happened the first fight, even though I was dead, right? They rushed to the point and they totally sacrificed checking all the angles, checking all the stuff, because they thought they were upper player, but they're not really. So it's a very good strategy.
D10 look out for sure. Thank you very much, man. It was a great pleasure to talk to you, and we'll see you, I think it's tomorrow, but very soon at the very least this week.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I can join you again, right? We will win. I believe that.